Hi, this is Lives Touched by Pets, a show for those who love and are loved by pets. I'm your host, Lisa DeSatnik, a certified trainer with so much potential in Cincinnati, Ohio. I am so glad that you're here. Welcome. When your family includes a dog and you're expecting a baby, it's important to plan ahead for minimizing stress and optimizing safety. In this episode, you'll hear some helpful preparation tips and considerations. I'm talking to my own teacher and mentor on this subject, Jennifer Shryock. Jennifer is owner and founder of Family Paws, from which I am a licensed parent educator. Jennifer has also served as a board member of the International Childbirth Education Association. She's a recognized expert on dog and baby toddler interactions and safety, and has written and spoken extensively on these topics. If you are an expecting parent, this will be a valuable discussion for you. Jen, it's so good to see you today. We're so used to seeing each other on Facebook and emails, but this is really nice to be able to see each other in person.
Yeah, it is. It's great to see you.
You've done so much for me in my career and as far as being able to help other families, and I'm looking forward to this, sharing some more insight with families too, because this is so important. Start by explaining a little bit about your inspiration for starting Family Paws.
Sure. So my inspiration was Moose. I adopted a German Shepherd and learned very quickly that, when we went to German Shepherd Rescue, we went for a puppy and they kind of laughed at us and said, no, because we had a 3-year-old and 2-year-old. And so, children. And so they rightfully so said, no, I don't think a puppy is a good idea. But we ended up with a 4 to 5-year-old German Shepherd, and he was fantastic. But he taught me a lot, and he got me involved in rescue, which is where I saw the need for support for families. I saw people who were heartbroken or had situations that they didn't know what to do. It just was a huge need, for families with young children. And there wasn't a lot of support out there. There was obedience, there was other things out there, but there wasn't a lot specifically for families with toddlers and babies and that kind of thing. And so I really wanted to create something.
That's great. And what you've done is created a worldwide movement to help families. So talk to us about what are some of the major challenges that a couple may face when they've got a dog and they're preparing to grow their family and have a baby?
Some of the major challenges are that they don't know what they don't know yet. And so they're living their life with their dog in an everyday life, not knowing what life with an infant's going to look like. And so our job is to come in and kind of say, okay, this is going well for you here in this situation, and we may want to tweak this just a little bit for when a baby comes. So for example, people who don't normally put their dogs behind a gate or have their dog in a crate when guests come or things like that, those things may change. Things like that they maybe didn't think about. Their dog is fine. Their dog, they haven't used crating or gating or anything since puppyhood or first adoption. But we use it a lot in management to help things stay secure and comfortable, for both baby and child and dog.
Because it's both for our safety and to help everybody to minimize stress as much as we can for the dog and the parents, because everybody's going to be going through stress and it's going to be challenging. There's a family that I'm working with right now that we're so used to having their dog sleep in their bed.
Ooh.
Talked about that and the challenges with that and how that's not active adult supervision. Talk to us about what you teach us about active adult awake supervision.
So it's really important to have active awake adult supervision, and I even throw in aware supervision if you can add more A's there. When incidents happen, and they rarely do, but if they do, it usually is a lack of supervision. And I don't mean this in a critical way. I mean this in an everyday way. Parents turn their back for a minute or they go do something and just miss a moment. Accidents happen in a moment's time. So we want to be proactive in our supervision and plan ahead. So if we're going to step away for a minute, we're going to have a plan for that stepping away, whether we step away with the dog or we have the baby in a carrier. But we're going to have a plan for that, especially during those first 3 months while the infant is so brand new to the dog and the dog has no idea that the infant is, this near and dear part of the family. There's no familiarity bond, and that takes time. And so we want to make sure that we are providing options for what our families can do.
Part of that has to do with, too, being able to recognize when your dog is showing stress or your baby's showing stress. And you're going to feel stress, too, no doubt, when you're in a situation like this. So we can so easily find photos and YouTube videos online for people to practice, unfortunately, watching for stress signs in these dogs. If we just, YouTube babies and dogs, so it's such an important thing about education and educating about body language and things too.
It is so incredibly important. Body language, is the dogs can't communicate with their verbal skills, so they can't tell us what's going on, much like our toddlers can't. Our toddlers can and our babies can't. So they're actually on an even playing field, the baby and the dog, is that they can't verbally communicate, but they can communicate with body language. And so it really is in our best interest as parents to get familiar with subtle signals in infants along with subtle signals in dogs so that we just become super curious about body language and what it's communicating so that we can help in the situation. So if an infant is feeling uncomfortable, so for example, I know a lot of people, I don't recommend this, but a lot of people like to have their dog go up and sniff the baby in the face or lick the baby in the face. And a lot of babies will respond to that with a grimace and pulling away and things like that. Well, that's communication. That's body language. That's important communication that we need to have. And so it's, we need to pay attention to those things. But if we don't know what we're looking for, then we don't know. So again, you don't know what you don't know, or you know what you know until you grow, is what I like to say. When you start to realize that those things are uncomfortable, then you start to recognize it, and then you can make alternative plans and you can go about interaction a different way. But until you know that, it all looks good, doesn't it?
That's so important. So that's a very, very important first step, is understanding. What are some other common challenges that you see with people that are expecting?
I think there are expectations. There are expectations of what, how things are going to go. There can be a clash in, we were talking about this today in class about how different partners come from different backgrounds. And so their experience with dogs from their childhood could be extremely different. And that can lead to some difficulties. So challenges in bringing together how they're going to raise their baby and dog and what that's going to look like and what's okay and what's not okay and what kind of discipline or how they're going to raise the dog. How are they going to, discipline is not the right word, but how are they going to teach the dog and how are they going to include the dog and how are they going to do those things? They need to come together on that and sometimes bring in a professional to help them do that, because the expectations can be wild. The expectations can be really different depending on what your experiences are.
Sure. We talk a lot about including, but at the same time, including with safety and with management in mind. Talk about that.
So we definitely want to include our babies, but at a level that is comfortable for our dog. And the way to do that is to provide some distance. I use barriers, I use X-pens, play yards, I use gates, crates, and we want our dogs to see our baby, but we don't necessarily need them to be up close sniffing them and licking them and exploring them. We want them to see them so that they're getting a sense of what they're doing, how they smell, how they act, how they, but observing at a distance. They don't need to be up close and personal. It's just too risky for an incident to happen, even just by a paw lift. Or I've got my large dog, if he would swing his head back, he could easily hurt a baby or knock a baby over. So we want to have safety there.
We talk about the difference between introduction and homecoming, because, when there's the word introduction, I think there's so much pressure there for direct contact, in your face, meeting each other.
Yeah.
That's what homecoming is really about. So let's talk a little bit about that.
So I like to look at homecoming as a period of time, a period of 3 months that is, roughly 3 months, that is from when baby comes home until about 3 months of age, where the dog has had a chance to habituate and get used to it. And I find that this takes pressure off of the adults as well, from thinking that they need to make everything happen overnight. It doesn't have to happen overnight. And so a lot of times people will give calls into our support line and they'll say, oh gosh, introduction didn't go well, and they're scared and they're crying and they're upset. And it just makes me sad because, if we can say to them, listen, it just takes time. It takes time, and your involvement in the supervision and your involvement in inclusive activities, all those things are going to be important and allow you to develop this relationship, but over a period of time, not over one day. Introduction implies it's one and done. When I think of an introduction, I think I introduced myself to you one time and that's it. If I went around and introduced myself to you over and over again, you would think I was weird. So it's one and done. That can't be true with our dogs. It just can't. Our dogs need more time, and the baby is constantly changing and growing and looks different and sounds different. And just in those early weeks, cries different, smells different, behaves different, moves different, sounds different, all those things. So babies change so much in that period of time that, we really need to allow for that, for those developmental milestones and everything, and allow our dogs to take the time to get comfortable.
Yeah, we don't think about this in the same way, but if you were introducing a dog to a cat, or you were bringing home a puppy to introduce to the dog, now, not everybody does this, but I really recommend, again, similarly, going slow, take it slow. Make sure that they're comfortable with each other, and teaching skills and behaviors and knowing what to watch for, all those things that are really important. And it can take months for that yeah.
I'm laughing because I'm going through this right now. I have 5 cats. I have a 9-month-old golden retriever and a 2-year-old collie. And we just lost our our dog that kind of signaled everything to everybody, Oliver. And so it's such a difference, right? And it's a process. It's such a process, and it takes time. And I'm reminding myself, it takes time with the cats. Like, I had to manage them before we got on here today, and different types of management and that kind of thing. But you're right. It's the same thing that we do for cats and dogs. We try to provide positive encounters, positive, calm encounters, where we're not chasing or we're not doing anything wild, but we're just trying to provide nice, calm interaction and giving them a chance to see. So much of the time, especially when it comes to babies and cats, would be when they move, that the dogs are like, what are we doing? So, allowing them the opportunity to see with a barrier in place and reinforcements ready is really the way to go.
Not taking anything to chance.
No. And using leashes and using all sorts of things. So management is key. It's really key. I'm speaking of it, and I'm at this point time in my personal life that I'm exhausted by management. And that's something that our families will say, God, it's so much to do. Yes, it is a lot to do. It is a lot to do. And I'm here with you in it. And I definitely understand that it's a lot to do. But it takes time. It takes time for these relationships to develop, especially when they're interspecies.
And, you know, friends, they can get together and they can help you with some of these things. And maybe they can take dog for a walk, or they can babysit your dog, give you respite sometimes, or can come over and have a little party to stuff food toys.
Please stuff the toys. Yeah. I love having frozen bones. I mean, I just went down and gave my dogs each a bone. Having something like that available in those moments where you have a crying baby, or you just are at your end, you know, and you just think, oh, let me give him something to do. It's a win-win. It's a win-win. So
the, you know, people just need to understand too that they're not in it alone. And they've got, you know, you and your hotline and Family Paws, and there are educators like me all around the world that are there to help.
Yes.
So definitely reach out and know that you are not alone, and what you are feeling is just, you know, I mean, it's part of the process.
It's exhausting. I think, you know, when someone has a toddler and a dog and they say, oh, it's really easy, it's going great, I kind of question, because I've raised 4 toddlers, and I've had many, many, many dogs in our home, and it's not easy. It's exhausting. And so it's exhausting. So if it's easy, great, but step back and make sure that you are indeed following the comfort level of your dog, that you are watching for subtle signals, licking lips, turning away, whale eye, half moon eye, or the whites of the eye showing, changes in breathing pattern, changes in turning away, you know, just different things, making sure that your dog is really appreciating the child. If every time your child comes up to your dog licks them in the face, it may not be about affection. It may be what I reference as kiss to dismiss. There's a lot of different things that can be going on. So we want to pay attention to all those things. And the more you're familiar with it, the more you can't help but see it. You know,
Yeah.
Miss it, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll talk and delve into further into the toddler phase of this and the infant phase of raising dogs and kids together. Talk about what it means to be dog aware when you define that.
So dog aware to me means, and it's a phrase that I've coined, it means body language, sensitivities, proximity, and supervision. So it's those 4 components. I found that so many people talk about supervision, and they talk about, you know, what it means to supervise, but you can't supervise unless you know body language, and you can't really know dog sensitivities unless you know the body language of the dog. So you don't know if a dog is uncomfortable with certain sensory things unless you can read their body language, unless you can say, all right, that's indicating discomfort. And then proximity, it's the same thing as sensitivities. You have to be able to read the dog's comfort level to say, all right, that's uncomfortable. You know, we're going to increase space and give some more distance and things like that. And then we can have real true supervision. So to me, full, awake, aware adult supervision is what's required. And we say awake too, because we don't want someone falling asleep, or especially with a toddler in the house, you know, and a dog, we want the full aware supervision. So dog aware is body language, sensitivities, proximity, and supervision.
Yeah, I think when people tell me, oh, my dog was fine, a lot of times that fine means the dog really isn't so fine. So define that. Yeah.
I find that people define fine as my dog did not growl.
Yeah.
You know?
My dog didn't react. My dog didn't. It's always about didn't. My dog didn't.
They didn't do.
My dog didn't do. But it's not about what did my dog enjoy or, you know.
Did he roll over for more? Did he ask for more? Or it's more what didn't they do? You know,
right.
That's what I find. And so a good way to check if your dog is enjoying something is, you know, some people call it a consent test. I do pet paws. The family dog does pat paws. So pat your leg, pat your leg, and pet the dog, and then pause. I say pet paws because my cat told me that, you know, if I pet him too many times, he would nip me. So I always say pet, stop, pause, and see, does the animal that you're interacting with want to continue that interaction, or have they had enough? Because they'll let you know. And with a dog, they'll move their head. They might shake off. They might walk away. They might turn away. They might, like I said, get up and shake off. So we want to make sure that we're checking to be sure that they're wanting to continue in that interaction.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell you what, why don't we do a part 2 with this, and let's delve into more about some of the issues with infants too.
Okay.
This is going so well. So stay with us and tune back next week, and we're going to talk about when kids get a little bit older than babies, and what we can do to prepare for that too.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing to my podcast. Come back often and tell your friends. If I can be of any help to you and your pet, please reach out to me via my website, www.somuchpotential.com. And for a lot more information, fun, and videos, please follow me, So Much Potential, on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. See you soon.